All right, so just to review, now we have our inventory table for our pet store, and we have this feeding table that we built the last video. And just to review, the field names that we added to our feeding table were pet ID, the feed date, the feed amount, and the staff ID of the person who did the feeding. So I was just looking through this table, and I was thinking there might be one other piece of information I might want to know. So the feed date, let's say we fed them today, but for animals that perhaps get fed more than once a day, maybe we want to know the time. So I'm going to go ahead and add another field I'll call feed time. Also a date time field, and then I'll drag this up because I want to go right after the date, just for how I'd like to see this. And maybe we can move staff ID up as well. So we'll now be seeing the pet that was fed, who fed them, what day they fed them, what time they fed them, and the amount that they fed them. Let me hit save and go back to that table. So if I'm entering data for this, let's just say we're going to start right with the first animal, the white hamster. That's pet ID number 1. So if I'm going to enter data, I'll say pet ID number 1, we'll say was fed by employee ID number 1. At this time, we don't have a table for the staff. That's okay. We can build one later. The feed date, so we'll just say today. And the feed time, if you click the calendar, you notice that a date just shows up because a date time field always references a date. So if I picked today, it's going to put today's date in there as well. But for time, since it's set as a daytime field, you can always put the actual notation for time. So let's say 12 o'clock. And it'll show that we fed them today at noon. And for feed amount, we'll say we fed the hamster 1 unit. At this time, we're dealing with units. If we needed to grow that, like let's say we fed 1 cup, 1 ounce, something like that, we could, if I hit save on this table, I guess I could do feed units, I guess. We can do something like that. It wouldn't be a number in this case. I have to pick something. I'll pick text. You can do something like this. Or I guess you could have another table. Once again, you can build all these relational tables where you could have cup, ounce, pound, whatever you want as different unit types. You can have a unit table and then have a numeric ID for each of those. You could do that. You can get as crazy as you want with this, but for now, let's just go ahead and in our feeding table, we'll have the unit as a text field, and I'll call that cup. Where you could get into trouble there, having a free text for the unit. What if you put cup and cups and you do a misspelling of the word cup? Things like that could occur. So those are other reasons why you may actually want a unit table that just references an ID number, 1, 2, 3, or whatever. Then you can put the unit ID in here. But these are things you can think about as you grow your database. And we can go ahead and say the black cat, Fluffy, fed them. Same person fed them, so the same staff ID. We can do the same thing. You can for date, you can use the calendar, or you can just type it in, whatever works for you. Did that at 12:05, a little after we fed the hamster, and we fed a cup again. So you can kind of see how this works as you start building this table.